Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another week of breaking news. Today is Monday, the 21st day of July, 2025. And in the headlines this morning, as always, we see some very important stories that are setting the stage exactly as the Bible said is going to happen with respect to Israel, the Middle East, and the rest of the world. Again, it's amazing what we see every day here on breaking news. We're always amazed, but never surprised. Here's the headlines. Number one, Israel. The IDF strikes Houthi targets in Hodeidah. That's the capital of Yemen, at least where the Houthis are. Israel Katz, the defense minister, said Yemen's fate will be the same as Tehran. This is from YNET News, a huge story. Now, speaking of a huge story, another one, the IDF proposes Gaza takeover plan as hostage talks stall. Cabinet pushes for action. This is from N12 news feed. It's called JFeed, an Israeli source. Bottom line is here, they're just sick and tired of the foot dragging by Hamas, and so things are changing right now, or in the process of changing. Now, Iran, on the other hand, is really feeling it. They agreed to hold nuclear talks with Europe this week. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Remember, you've got the snapbacks at the end of next month, August, if they don't get an agreement with the U.S. and other nations. The sanctions that were put on hold will now be snapped back, and they will be having more sanctions against them as if Iran needed that. Now, the next story shows the problem. Iran paranoia. The regime is taking revenge on its citizens after being defeated by Israel. This from the Jerusalem Post, and this is a story we've been talking about. Within Iran, every single day since the end of the 12-day war, there have been actions going on against the government, all sorts of things taking place against their infrastructure, against some of their leaders there that are being targeted. And so Iran is paranoid. And again, this is exactly where we expected them to be because they're the paper tiger. They're not the huge military power that they have been pretending to be or wanting to be the last 4 decades. And it fits exactly with what the scripture has to say about the last days. Now, finally, a fifth headline, jaw-dropping amount of Israelis thinking of leaving in wake of the war. This is from Israel HaYom. Now, this, of course, would be a natural response if you're getting bombarded, and people in the north. We saw that for almost a year. In the south, of course, the rest of the country, these air raid signals going on all the time, the sirens going off and hitting the shelters. And it's not a really great way to live. And so a lot of the younger Israelis are thinking of leaving Israel. The problem is, wherever they go, it's only going to be worse. We actually have story after story every single day of both Jews and Israelis being persecuted in various Western countries. They, try and fit in, and it's just not working, just not happening. They're being separated, kicked out of restaurants, refusing to be served. And so we're going to see more and more of that as we get closer to the time of the end, where that's why the people will continue to go to Israel, because that's the only, with all the other things going on, they're the only safe place. So these are the stories today. All right. As far as we're concerned here, it's been really, really hectic the last 3 or 4 days. We haven't been able to do two breaking news editions each day just because of so much going on. Finally, we think we've got things pretty much settled here. So, starting today, Monday, we're going to start doing again 2 editions of breaking news each day. There's so many stories going on. We've been wanting to do them, just circumstances haven't allowed it. But we seem to be over the hump right now. Appreciate you praying for us because so much has been going on, but the Lord has been very faithful. And like we said, we've got some really exciting things to share with you, which is happening with the ministry right now. We'll be sharing it probably in a couple of days. So we're thankful for each and every one of you for supporting us, for praying for us. It's really necessary at a time like this. All right, let's get to the headlines. Headline number one. IDF strikes Houthi targets in Hodeidah. Katz, that's the defense minister from Israel, said Yemen's fate will be the same as Tehran's. This is a YNET story. Military said it destroyed infrastructure used to support attacks on Israel. Defense Minister Katz warns Houthis will pay a heavy price for missile launches and vowed continue action. The IDF said on Monday it attacked and destroyed terror infrastructure at Hodeidah port in Yemen belonging to the Houthis, targeting equipment and facilities used to support hostile operations against Israel. According to the IDF spokesperson, the strike hit engineering equipment involved in repairing port infrastructure, fuel tanks, and vessels employed for military activities aimed at projecting force against Israel and maritime traffic near the port. Additional terrorist infrastructure linked to the Houthis was also targeted. Now, the IDF has noted that the Hodeidah port has been targeted multiple times previously due to its use by the Houthis for transferring weapons supplied by Iran. Remember, there was a weapons shipment that was intercepted by Yemen, the other side of Yemen, the good side of them, the government that's anti-Houthis, and it was a huge 750 tons of weapons were just intercepted on the way to Yemen from Iran. And these shipments, of course, enable the Houthis to carry out terrorist operations against Israel and its allies. So basically, the story goes on to say continued activity and attempts to restore terrorist infrastructure at the port were detected, the spokesperson said. Therefore, components facilitating these efforts were struck. So basically, what's going on now is the Houthis, one of the surrogates of Iran, their bark is getting a lot worse than their bite. They're trying to get back into the swing of things and attack the ships going through that area, the Gulf of Aden, the Red Sea area, and upset the shipping, world shipping. About 20% of the world shipping goes through that area, which they've been attacking. And the Israelis basically said, look, enough is enough. You've got a missile here, a missile there that don't hit their target there in Israel, but they're being shot at Israel and causing people to go to the air raid shelters. So basically, what we're going to see now, like Israel Katz said, is you're going to end up just like Iran. We're going to bomb you like we did Iran, and they certainly will, where you will not be a threat any longer. And again, this fits with what we've been talking about, how Iran and its proxies will not be a major force in the world as we get closer to the time of the end. They will fade away into the distance, and it's precisely what we're seeing. So that's our first story. The new Middle East, Israel is flexing its muscles. The Houthis are in the crosshairs, as Hamas is, as our next story indicates. Now, as we've seen here every day, day after day, the story gets old, doesn't it? About we've got a Gaza ceasefire plan. The hostage is going to be released. The mediators are all set. Israel's accepted it. The U.S. has accepted. Trump's announcing it, and Hamas drags their feet. They don't announce anything. And finally, they say, "No, this is not good enough. We want to change it." And we gave a story recently, if you recall, how they do this purposely. They don't want to see Israel with any power, with any might in the Middle East. But they really can't stop it. And so now what's happening, as our second headline says, IDF proposes a Gaza takeover plan as hostage talks stall and the cabinet pushes for action. This is from N12, an Israeli site. The IDF has proposed an aggressive plan to seize more Gaza territory to pressure Hamas if hostage talks fail. But Prime Minister Netanyahu has prioritized diplomacy. Well, good luck with that. The strategy, which aims to secure hostages and defeat Hamas, has sparked debate over its risks and feasibilities. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir presented a bold contingency plan to political leaders, dubbed the Gaza Takeover Plan, as ceasefire negotiations with Hamas falter in Doha, Qatar. The strategy, revealed by Yaron Avraham on Israel's Channel 12's weekend broadcast, proposes intensifying military operations far beyond current levels, aiming to seize and hold significantly more territory in Gaza than the IDF currently controls. Because remember, if this hostage plan goes through, not only won't they be able to move forward for at least 2 months, 60 days, but they'll have to give up a lot of the things they've conquered, since March, huge amounts of territory where they've moved Hamas out and settled in and stopped the terrorism from there. And that's one of the problems with any hostage deal, ceasefire deal. They would have to give up this hard-earned territory. All right, so the plan, as the article says, designed to pressure Hamas, would see the IDF progressively dominate more areas, signaling to the terrorist group that every day works to its detriment as Israel expands its grip. Zamir dismissed the previously proposed humanitarian city concept as more porous than Swiss cheese, arguing that it undermines the war goals. Now, again, the continual foot dragging by Hamas with respect to the ceasefire hostage plan is getting old, as our comments know on this article. Israel has decided to consider seizing more territory as it increases its Gaza takeover plan. Again, Israel is flexing its muscles. Now, we expect this to happen all the more. Eventually, we know from Scripture, Israel will get to the place where they believe they're at peace with their neighbors, like as a result of their different military victories. And they'll be feeling very, very strong again. And that, just like in the past, that's will be taken by surprise. in this predicted Russian invasion, Ezekiel 38:39. Now, it will be at a juncture when Russia will lead the surprise attack. Now, as we've said over and over again, we are a long way from this. Circumstances on the ground do not permit this right now. It's still some time in the future, but the movement is all in this direction. That's what we're talking about here every day, and that's the key. So we want you to see our book, 25 Signs. We're near the end, signs 9 through 11, for explanation of what will take place. The free download from our website, Educating Our World, under the heading of Bible prophecy. Now we got a couple of headlines with Iran here, and this is fascinating because it shows um, how paranoid they are and how boxed in they are. Headline number 3: Iran to hold nuclear talks with Europe. This is from the Jerusalem Post by way of Reuters. Iran, Britain, France, and Germany will hold nuclear talks in Istanbul on Friday, an Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said early on Monday, following warnings by the 3 European countries that failure to resume negotiations would lead to international sanctions being reimposed on Iran. Iranian news outlet Tasnim previously reported on Sunday that the countries would likely meet next week. Now, Iran, of course, is feeling the pressure from the world. Unless an agreement is made by the end of August, the sanctions will snap back, go back into place. And as bad as Iran has it right now, it will be a lot worse with these Western countries and United States snapping back the sanctions that were put there. Were stopped actually 10 years ago when the so-called JCPOA under Obama, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was put into place by the Obama administration. So this causing real paranoia in Iran, as our next story indicates. Headline 4, the headline is Iran Paranoia. The regime is taking revenge on its citizens after being defeated by Israel. It's from the Jerusalem Post. Tehran has changed its appearance. The streets are filled with military checkpoints, armed IRGC forces, the Bajis military, and police forces raiding homes and arresting citizens without apparent cause. After 12 days of fighting between Iran and Israel, the regime of the Ayatollahs in Tehran has significantly increased its repression against its citizens in ways not seen in years. Tehran has changed its appearance. The streets are filled with these checkpoints, etc., etc. They're raiding homes, arresting citizens with no cause. An illustration: Jawad, a 36-year-old software engineer living in Tehran, told the British news outlet The Telegraph that since the end of the war, he has to wake up a half hour earlier every morning just to pass through the chain of checkpoints on his way to work. He said, "They stop me at the same checkpoint every day, armed at every square. They randomly gather people just to instill fear." Now, since the ceasefire came into effect in June, and after about 2 weeks of air and ground strikes by Israel and the U.S., Iran has begun an unprecedented wave of arrest. Authorities claim to have uncovered Mossad spy networks operating within the country, and as part of this, hundreds of residents have been arrested on charges of collaborating with Israel. At least 6 have already been executed, what human rights organization Amnesty International described as trials conducted absurdly and unfairly. Now, even the regime officials are feeling unsafe. Abdullah Shabazi, a former senior intelligence officer, said the situation, now get this, is now beyond imagination compared to before what the war was with Israel. Here's what we see. Senior officials are switching hiding places nightly, avoiding phone use out of fear of assassination. Senior government officials are doing this. What became clear, he said to all of us, is there is a prolonged ground activity by the Mossad network inside Iran. Last month, a state funeral was held for senior officers killed during the fighting, with authorities claiming Mossad agents operating from within Iranian territory. Now, we've been giving you this story day after day. Our friend Nader, who was working with special forces, and he told us how the Mossad is, that's the Israel, MI5, Israel, CIA, whatever you want to call it, in their secret organization there that works outside of the country. Basically, they're doing these operations every single day. What they're doing, they're destroying infrastructure with respect to Iran's military. They're personally targeting. This is what these people are paranoid of. These leaders, they're taking them out. They're neutralizing them, to better term. And it doesn't make the headlines here. No, you're not going to get it promoted, but as Nader tells us, this is an ongoing job. The Mossad is doing its work every single day. And the idea is that there'll be enough confusion there for a regime change where the Ayatollahs will be pushed out of power and Reza Pahlavi, the eldest son of the Shah of Iran, will take over. Now, whether that'll happen or not, we don't know. But every single day, this is happening in Iran. and it's the people are, and again, the people are standing up. We've emphasized the fact that 30%, only 30% of the people of Iran actually practice Islam, and only 20% support the government as is. So they don't have the people on their side. Trouble is, what do they have on their side is the military, the IRGC. And so that's what we see right now. And so we continue to monitor that. But again, what it proves is Iran will be the paper tiger at the time of the end. They will be a surrogate, a proxy of Russia. They will not be the leading power in the Middle East. In the last 4 decades, it looked like they were going to be it, but not according to the Bible. They're a secondary nation with respect to their military. They'll still be anti-Israel, but they won't have the power they had before. And that's exactly what we see. All right, the last story, jaw-dropping amount of Israelis thinking of leaving in wake of the war. This is from Israel HaYom, a comprehensive 2025 study by the Aluma organization reveals, now get this, over one-third of Israeli youth are contemplating emigration, with the October 7th war significantly impacting their career prospects and overall confidence in their future within the country. And it goes through about the this poll, and it shows a lot of them are very paranoid about it, how they're over 52% are concerned with their employment, personal relationships. They're thinking of getting out of the country. Now, here's the sad truth. Wherever these people go, they will not feel safe. Every single day here, now we don't bring them to you, but every day here I get stories of Jews and Israelis being attacked and persecuted in various Western countries of the world. We know the situation is only going to get worse. Again, they're refused service at restaurants. They're made fun of. And sometimes they're beaten up in wherever they go. And it's only going to get worse and worse the closer we get to the time of the end. So that's why they'll have to go back there. That's why they have gone back to Israel, because as bad as it is there, it's the only place it'll feel safe. And of course, too, when Hamas is neutralized in Gaza, Hezbollah, of course, in Lebanon, the Houthis in Iran, the situation will be easier in the country. They won't feel the pressure as they felt before. So they can get back to a normalized life. Because remember, it'll be this normalized life which they get back to when they feel safe is when this Russian invasion that'll happen sometime down the line. So we're moving in the right direction in all these stories we see. Exactly what the Bible says. As always, we are amazed every day, but never surprised. So we'll give you the latest. And again, sign 21 of our 25 signs. We're near the end. There'll be a rise in anti-Semitism. The entire world will be against Israel. It's exactly what we're seeing happening. And it'll happen all the more the closer we get to the coming of Christ. All right, we will do a second promise, the second edition of Breaking News today. We've got a ton more stories to bring to you. And we're glad to be back in the saddle again doing it. I'm Don Stewart. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.